I don't remember when the call started feeling wrong. At first, it was just another job. I worked night support for a small telecom company. Mostly routing complaints, checking connections, dealing with people who couldn't sleep and needed someone to talk to. It was boring, repetitive, safe. That's why I liked it. The shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Almost no supervision, just a quiet office, a headset, and a screen with incoming call logs. Most nights blended together. Until one night didn't. It started around 2:12 a.m. I remember the exact time because that's when the system glitched. The call queue froze. Not completely. Just one entry. At the top of the list. No numbered, no name. Just a blank ID and a timer already running. 0:00:43. That didn't make sense. The timer only starts after you answer a call. But I hadn't picked anything up yet. I hovered over the accept button. Something about it felt off, like I was interrupting something instead of starting it. But it was my job. So I clicked. The line connected instantly. No ringing. No delay. Just silence. I adjusted my headset. Hello, this is customer support. Can you hear me? Nothing, just a faint static. But not normal static. It sounded uneven, like something layered beneath it. I was about to hang up when I heard it. Breathing, very quiet, very close to the microphone. Slow, deliberate. I froze. Hello? The breathing stopped, completely, like it was never there. Then a voice spoke, flat, calm. You already picked up. I felt a slight chill. That's how calls work, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. No, you already picked up. Something about the way it said it didn't feel like a correction. It felt like a statement. Like it was reminding me of something. I checked the timer on the call. It read 02:13. My stomach dropped. That wasn't possible. Only a few seconds had passed. I glanced at the system clock. 2:12 a.m. Still, the call timer was ahead of real time. I swallowed. Is there something I can help you with? Another pause. Longer this time. Then the voice responded. You shouldn't stay after this one. I frowned. What do you mean? No answer. Just silence again. Then the line disconnected. The call log disappeared instantly. Like it had never existed. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process what just happened. Probably just a glitch. Or someone messing around. That had to be it. I shook it off and continued working, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. About the timer. About what the voice said. You shouldn't stay after this one. It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like advice. That's what made it worse. A few minutes passed. Then another call came in. This time with a number. Normal. Everything looked fine. I answered it. Hello, this is customer support. Silenced. My grip tightened on the headset. Hello. Then I heard my own voice from the other end, saying the exact same words, perfectly synced. Hello, this is customer support. My heart skipped. I pulled the headset away slightly, then slowly brought it back. This isn't funny, I said. There was a slight delay. Then my voice repeated it back. This isn't funny. Exactly the same tone. Exactly the same timing, like a recording, but not delayed enough that it felt live, like it was speaking with me. Not after me. I muted my mic. The voice on the other end kept talking, repeating everything I had said, word for word. Even though my mic was off, I stared at the screen. The call timer read 02:17. The system clock read 2:13. I ended the call. Immediately. My hands were shaking now. This wasn't a glitch. It couldn't be. Something was wrong with the system. Or with me. I stood up and walked around the room, trying to calm down, trying to think logically. But then the phone rang again. No caller ID, no number. Just like the first one. I stared at it, not moving, letting it ring. The timer started again, before I even touched it. 0.00:0, 1.00:0, 2.00:03. Counting up on its own. I didn't answer it, I couldn't. But then, it picked up anyway. The line connected without me touching anything, and my breath caught in my throat. The silence returned, thick, heavy. Then the voice spoke again. "You stayed." I felt my chest tighten. "I told you not to." I couldn't respond. The screen flickered. The call timer jumped. 0.02:25. My eyes moved to the system clock. 0.2:14 a.m. Time didn't match anymore. Nothing matched. "You don't notice it happening?" the voice continued. "Not at first." I shook my head slowly. "What is this?" There was a pause. Then something changed. The tone of the voice. It became softer, almost familiar. "You answer, and then you answer again." My heart started pounding. "What are you talking about?" The voice didn't respond directly. Instead, the screen changed. The call log refreshed, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. Multiple entries, all from the same blank ID, stacked on top of each other. Each one with a different duration. 0.02 to 13.05 to 42.11 to 08.23 to 51 hours. All marked as completed calls. From tonight. Calls I didn't remember taking. Now my breathing became uneven. "That's not possible," the voice interrupted. "You don't remember leaving either." The lights in the office flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. I turned slowly in my chair. The office looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt occupied, like something was already there, waiting for me to notice. "You're still on the first call." The voice was closer now, clearer, not coming through the headset anymore. I pulled it off immediately, but the voice didn't stop. It came from behind me. "You never hung up." I turned around and saw the reflection in the dark monitor screen behind me. Someone sitting in my chair, wearing my headset, facing forward, not moving. Down my body went cold. I slowly turned back. The chair was empty. I was still standing. But when I looked back at the reflection, it was still there, still sitting, still wearing the headset. Then it moved, slowly turning its head toward me. The face was mine. But the expression was wrong, too calm, too aware. It spoke, but not out loud, inside my head. "We've already had this conversation." The screen in front of me flickered one last time. The call timer reset. 0.00:01. The phone rang again. Same blank ID. Same silence. I didn't answer this time. I ran out of the office, out of the building. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I never went back. I quit the job that same morning. Blocked every number related to that place. Changed everything. But sometimes, late at night, my phone lights up, no number, no name. Just a call already in progress. And when I look at the timer, it's never at 0. It's always been running. I didn't plan to stay there long. It was supposed to be temporary. A few weeks at most. The house belonged to a distant relative who had moved out years ago. No one else wanted to use it, so I was allowed to stay there while I sorted out some things. It wasn't in a crowded area. No neighbors close enough to see into the windows. No street lights directly outside. Just a quiet stretch of road and a house that felt too still. But during the day it was fine. Normal, even. Old furniture, faded walls, slight smell of dust. Nothing unusual. It was only at night that things started to feel different. Not immediately. Not in an obvious way, just small things. Subtle changes that were easy to ignore. The first one was the chair. There was a wooden chair in the living room placed near the window. I noticed it on the first day because it looked out of place. Everything else in the room was arranged neatly. but that chair was angled slightly toward the hallway that I didn't think much of it, until the next morning that IT had moved. Not far, just enough that it was now facing directly into the hallway that I stood there for a few seconds, trying to remember if I had touched it. Maybe I had, without thinking. That happens, so I moved it back. Facing the window again. By the third day, it had moved again. Same position. Facing the hallway. That's when I started paying attention. That I made a note of it mentally, but I didn't react. Not yet. That night, I stayed up longer than usual, just to see if anything would happen. Around 1:30 a.m., the house felt different. The air got heavier, the silence deeper, like everything was waiting. That I sat in the living room, watching the chair. Nothing happened, no movement, no sound. After a while, I felt stupid. Paranoid, so I went to bed. The next morning, the chair was facing the hallway again. That's when it stopped feeling like coincidence and started feeling like something deliberate. I checked the doors, the windows. Everything was locked, no signs of anyone entering, no explanation. But I stayed, because leaving would mean admitting something was wrong, and I wasn't ready to do that yet. The next change was smaller, harder to notice, but worse. The mirror in the hallway at IT was an old, slightly warped mirror mounted on the wall. At first, it just reflected the space normally. But after a few nights, something felt off about it. Not the reflection itself, the timing. I would move, and for a split second, the reflection wouldn't. Just a fraction of a second, but enough to notice, enough to make my stomach tighten. I tested it, moved my hand quickly, watched the reflection. There it was again. A delay, small, but real. I stepped closer, staring directly at myself, trying to catch it again. For a moment, everything matched perfectly. Then, I blinked, and my reflection didn't. It kept staring, unblinking, for just a second longer than it should have. I stepped back immediately. My heart racing. That wasn't possible. Mirrors don't do that. I avoided the hallway after that, stayed in the living room, kept the lights on longer, tried to ignore it. But the house didn't stop. IT adjusted. That's the only way I can describe it. It adapted. The next night, I heard footsteps, soft, from the hallway, moving slowly toward the living room. I froze in my chair, listening, each step careful, measured, stopping just outside the doorway. I didn't look. I couldn't, because I already knew. If I looked, there would be nothing there, but the sound would be real. After a few seconds, it stopped. The silence returned, heavy, pressing. I forced myself to stand up, walked to the hallway, looked. Nothing, empty, but the chair had turned. IT was facing me now, directly, like it had been watching. That's when I realized something worse. The house wasn't just changing things. IT was reacting to me, learning, understanding what made me uncomfortable, and using it. The next night, I tried something different. I didn't look at anything. I stayed in my room. Lights off, door closed, pretending none of it existed. Around 2 a.m., I heard my name from the other side of the door, soft, almost gentle. Open the door. My body went completely still. That voice? It sounded familiar. Too familiar. I didn't respond. I didn't move. Open the door. It said it again. Exactly the same tone, no changed, no emotion. Like it was repeating something it had learned. I stayed silent. The handle moved slightly, just enough to make a soft click, then stopped. A long pause followed, and then the voice changed. IT sounded like me, perfectly. Open the door. My throat went wide. IT wasn't guessing anymore. IT wasn't copying randomly. IT was learning me on my voice, on my tone, on my patterns. I backed away from the door slowly, trying not to make a sound. The voice kept repeating over and over, each time more accurate, more natural, until it was impossible to tell the difference. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. By the third night, I stopped speaking entirely. I didn't want it to learn anything else. Didn't want to give it more to use. But it didn't matter. It already had enough. That night, around the same time, I heard movement inside my room. Not outside, inside, slow, careful. Like someone trying not to be noticed, I sat up slowly, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. And that's when I saw it. Near the corner, a shape, standing still, watching me. I couldn't make out details, just the outline. But I knew one thing, it wasn't there before. And it wasn't part of the house anymore. It had learned enough. The voice came one last time. From that shape. Clear, perfect voice. You stayed too long. I ran out of the room, out of the house. I didn't stop until I reached the road. I never went back. Not for my things, not for anything, but sometimes, when I'm alone, I catch myself speaking without thinking, and for a split second, it doesn't feel like my voice anymore. Like something else is saying it first, and I'm just repeating it. I've driven that highway more times than I can count. Same route, same turns, same landmarks. After a while, you stop thinking about it. Your body just follows the road automatically. That's why I knew something was wrong almost immediately. It was supposed to be a normal drive. Late night, empty road. I had just finished a delivery and was heading back home. The highway stretched out in front of me, completely quiet except for the sound of my engine and the occasional rush of wind against the windows. Nothing unusual. Until I passed the toll booth. That's where it started. The toll booth was closed, which wasn't strange at that hour. No workers, no lights, just the empty structure and the barrier lifted halfway up. I drove through without stopping. And about 10 minutes later, I saw it again. The same toll booth, same position, same broken light flickering on the side. I slowed down slightly. That didn't make sense. There was only one toll on that route. I was sure of it. I had driven this road hundreds of times. I passed it again. This time, I paid more attention. I looked at every detail. The chipped paint on the booth, the faded sign, the exact angle of the barrier. All identical. I checked my mirrors after passing it. The road behind me stretched out normally. Nothing unusual. I kept driving, telling myself it was just a similar structure. Maybe another toll point I forgot about. That had to be it. But 10 minutes later, I saw it again. Same booth. Same flickering light. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. This wasn't possible. I slowed down more this time. Almost stopping as I passed it. I looked inside the booth. Empty. Completely empty. But something about it felt wrong. Like it wasn't just abandoned. Like it was waiting. I drove past it again. And this time, I checked the time. 2:11 a.m. I kept driving, eyes fixed on the road, trying to ignore the growing tension in my chest. 10 minutes passed. The road stayed the same, straight, endless, and then, there it was again. The toll booth. My stomach dropped. I checked the time again. 2:11 a.m. It hadn't changed. Not even a minute had passed. My breathing became uneven. I pressed the accelerator harder. The engine responded immediately. The speed increased. But the road didn't feel like it was moving anymore. The surroundings stayed the same, unchanging, static, like I was driving in place. And then, the headlights flickered. Just once. I tightened my grip. Then it happened again, longer this time. The road ahead dipped into darkness for a split second. When the lights came back on, something was standing near the toll booth. A figure. Right beside it, tall, still, facing the road. Facing me. I felt my chest tighten. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of that. I slowed down as I approached. I didn't want to. But I couldn't stop myself. My foot eased off the accelerator on its own. The car rolled forward, closer, closer. The figure didn't move, didn't react, just stood there, watching. I tried to make out details, but the darkness around it felt thicker, Like the headlights couldn't fully reach it, I passed the booth slowly, my eyes locked on the figure, and for a brief moment, I saw its face, or something where its face should have been blank, featureless. Like it wasn't finished. I looked away immediately. My heart pounding. I pressed the accelerator again. The car sped forward, faster than before. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if it was still there. But after a few minutes, I checked the mirror anyway. The road behind me was empty. No toll booth. No figure. Nothing. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Maybe it was over. Maybe I had imagined it. Then the headlights flickered again, longer this time. When they came back on, the toll booth was in front of me again. Closer than before. Too close. Like it had been placed directly in my path. And the figure was no longer beside. It was standing in the middle of the road, blocking my way. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly before coming to a stop, just a few meters away. The engine idled loudly in the silence. The figure didn't move, didn't react, just stood there, watching me. My hands were shaking now. I didn't know what to do. Drive forward? Turn around? Neither felt possible. The road behind me felt just as wrong as the one ahead. Then the figure moved, slowly, taking a step closer. My breath caught in my throat. It raised one arm, pointing. Not at me. The passenger seat. I felt a cold wave run through my body. I turned my head slowly toward the empty seat beside me, and for a split second, I saw something sitting there. A shape, faint, but real, facing forward, just like me. I snapped my head back toward the road. The figure was gone. The toll booth gone. The highway stretched out normally again, empty, silent. Like nothing had ever been there. My breathing was heavy, uneven. I pressed the accelerator slowly. The car moved forward. The road remained normal, and no more loops, and no more flickering lights. Nothing. I drove the rest of the way home without stopping. Without looking back. I thought it was over. I wanted to believe it was over. But something didn't feel right. When I finally parked outside my house, I turned off the engine. The silence settled in, and that's when I noticed it. The passenger seat, indented, like someone had been sitting there the entire time. I didn't get out of the car immediately. I just sat there, staring at it, trying to convince myself it wasn't real, that it was just my imagination. But then, very slowly, the seatbelt on that side tightened on its own, clicking softly into place, like something had just made itself comfortable. And then I heard it, right next to me. A voice, calm, flat, too close. You missed the turn.